Kusile ngalo muhle sikuvusele sikwamukele ehlelweni Kusile breakfast show nalomuhla kungilesihlanu empeleni lesihlanu wekugcina enyangeni yeLweti Mfombeni lesihlanu ke lomkhulu lona abantu labanengi namuhla sigatsile nje ukuthi bathathe incumo yabantu awuthi sola ngade emavikini lalandzelako sebasishayela baboleka imali sikukhuthata nje Mfombeni njengoba phela ngikubonile nawe ngalesithathu sothi ngilesihlanu vele soloku la ngade Black Friday awu bekunene mala kangabe imnyama ke lalandzelako senisishayela niboleka imali lenikwenda konje ngithenge nicophelele ngathi niyancinda lamakhikhini ngoba imali angaseta ukuchubeka kale kwaloko ngalo muhle siyakwemukela kusibusiso ke kuvuka nawe nalomuhla ekuseni kusibusiso nje sisithola kulomdzala wetinsuku ngolele singilabathandaza ukuthi nje ngisakuvusele ngabe unjani vele lamhla ekuseni
Ngiphilele Mnguni ngiphilele njengoba usho Mnguni ukuthi sibonga uNkulunkulu ukuthi silana namhla ekuseni kubalekile ukuthi siliphakamise igama lakhe sisavuka nje the first thing that you do ubonge uNkulunkulu ukuthi thank you God for waking me up siyabonga kakhulu uNkulunkulu and siyanivusela ababukela emakhaya thank you for joining us this morning. It's the Friday, Black Friday. Njengoba vedile nje Mnguni ukuthi njengoba bahlale basecwayisa lapha be consumer forum ukuthi sibuke kahle ukuthi sibudgetile yini vele sibudgetele nivele le Black Friday ngalokuthi vele lama sales vele manje kakhulu atitolo Mnguni bakutshela ngabo 70% off ngeyohlala ke vele ungagijimeli leyo mpahla loyifunako namhlanje imali tabe diphela noma kanjani.
Hayi kusingisa angisathi nalesingisi mina nawu 70 off kuyini kona lokho kodwa nje abantu abacaphele nako lengingakusho ngoba umbuke nalo 70 off ukuthi ngabe ngo70 off lelikhigi lakho lona lingi 70 off ngoba ngi70 off kule mpahla loyithengayo kanti nalikhigi lakho lingilo 70 so khanza ukuthi ke sawusala vele sowunemali letakupheketela encenye eliviki linye sesele amaviki lamane ukuthi kuphele na inyanga lelo tabe sawuyiholele so kukhutsata nje kulolu hlangothi vele sikhutsata kakhulu thenini nisaphuma lomuhla niya kuyawuthenga nithathe incumo lentipopole kahle kodwa nje ngalomuhle nalomuhla luhlelo litaba ngulelo lolu mnanzi sibonile ke longanga nvunankulu welive kungathi ke khona lasakhulumile lokuniketa sivet for logcina etindzabeni letikhulunyiswe esibayeni tikhulunyiswa sive tindzaba tenfutfu ngathi ke hulumende sawuvele sawutibhalile phansi sawuvele uphume emagonso usebenta dona siyafuna ke kuva leyo nkulumo legcwele yakhe nvunankulu ngicane nje sitayibuka gabanca insimbi yesithupha lungelele ngemva kokuthi ukhulumisane nalabaqhamuka ka Eswatini Revenue Service kanti ke saphindze sibe nato tinkulumo tetemidlalo nithathele umsakazo Fabrice Msonera lesabuyile sihlangu kude lokunye
lungelele sikhuluma ngesihlangu
in shambles ngovile ukhala take a day ago now you have your own concerns but wena ke ngivile ukuthi ngathi awukhali nga coach like a lot of people are ngathi ukhala nje ngale ukuthi kufuna le structure kusukela labo grassroots kubuketwe lezaba le abantwana baqale ukujima basesebancane kodwa nje siyafuna kuvaka abantu ukuthi ngabe isalaphi ngoba ngathi lonyaka sikake salikora ligoli kuwo onke ama tournaments nema cup tournaments lesiwadlalile lokuyinvokele ebhlungu kakhulu sitabuka ke naletinye inhlangothi tetemidlalo even outside of the country but we do want to pay particular focus ku issue yesihlangu.
Yeah, kunjalo kanti ke ngafa 6 lomhla esenjaba kungilesihlanu nje sithe kade natindzaba lokubhadalwa kwemthelo evikini eliphelele besikhuluma nga-International Fraud Awareness Week lebe kuliviki nje lapho bekucwayiswa sive namakhanjiswa alwadi nje nge-fraud sukela mhla ka-12 kuya kumhla ka-18 November namhla ke sibe sikhuluma kabanti ngesondzela sikhulume campaign ngomkhankaso ke lona losukunyiswe ngilo libandla noma ke inkampani Eswatini Revenue Service njengendlela nje le proactive yekusita emakhasimende akhe ERS ngekunciphisa tikweleti tabo temthelo kampani ke ERS seyintroduce indlela letimbili leti sisombululo sekubhadala tikweleti kanti tifaka ekhathi waiving of interest exceeding principal debt kanye ne debt payments arrangements sitatiteka kabanti leti naye communications director ka ERS Vusi Dlamini at 6:30. Stay with us kungmanje asibukele thamba imbili kumaphephandzaba. Alright, sasicela sibuke i-Times of Eswatini lomuhla kungilesihlanu. Lejihamba imbili, plane crashes, burst into flames and 2 survive. Ingothi ke lena lendeke itolo emini endzaweni yaseLunzi. Kuletinye lethamba imbili, Likhwane Beneficiary Fund matter, over 100 parents take 9 pension funds to court, but they want court to order pension funds to pay them or beneficiaries any available amount. Kulenye lehamba embili, Health Minister kanye na Deputy Prime Minister visited the Mbabane Government Hospital yesterday on a fact-finding mission. Kanti kulenye lehamba embili, account frozen after 120,000 emalangeni win and Panther cries foul. Kulenye lehamba embili, 7 community police relative among suspects ku alleged cattle rustler murder.
Kanzike kutemidlalo Times of Eswatini lomuhla kungolesihlanu ekuseni legijima imbili ikhulumisa sihlangu ekuthenini kuma FIFA World Cup qualifiers sebenzise imali lelinganiselwa ku 0.5 million bilo in 2 games. Lokusho ukuthi ke 500,000 emalangeni loyo lospendwe ke sihlangu kulemidlalo lemibili ledlalile khathi idlala kuma World Cup qualifiers. On another one, swimmer Fraser's golden moment. Swimming sensation Luca Fraser said he was happy to get a gold medal in yesterday's 8th Africa Aquatics Zone 4 Championships. Siyambongela kakhulu ke Luca Fraser. Kanti ke lenye lekhona ngathi nje sema fixture emidlalo letaba khona kulempela sonto.
Asibuka Eswatini Observer lomhla ekuseni lethamba imbili, Prime Minister unveils cabinet plan seeks to modernize the country based on tinkhundla and will avoid doing too many things achieving very little. Kanti kuletinye thamba imbili sithombe lapha sibaphathi benkampani MTN Eswatini kanye nase Southern Africa lapho khona MTN abekuba 25th anniversary. Kulenye lehamba imbili, patient begs minister for meds and 2 survive Mbuluzi plane crash.
Temidlalo Eswatini Observer this morning, Lucas Fraser wins gold medal at Zone 3 swimming champs. Congratulations to him. Ganzige, birds are stranded as Bishop Lukele repossesses his sprinter bus.
Thamba imbili, Eswatini Daily News lomhla kungolesihlanu, Eswatini exports 2.2 billion amalangeni goods to SA ngekusho kwa Minister Commerce. Kanti kulenye lehamba imbili, change has come. Letinye lethamba imbili, Likhwane hold to court, more on page 1.
Kutemidlalo sihlangu miss out on 10,000 bonuses. The EFA had dangled a bonus of 10,000 emalangeni for each player. In the event, they won the opening 2 matches of the 2026 World Cup qualifiers against Libya and Cape Verde, which the nation's pride lost 1-0 and 2-0 respectively. Very sad. Mula Sport pumps in 40,000 emalangeni for new basketball tournament. Kanzike Guardiola is football's most influential manager. It's a very, very controversial statement. But those are the leading headlines this morning.
Yeah, all right, it's 10 minutes after 6. Dawsa salkefu nasibuya sithatha indaba yaSwati.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eVeni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba letiya ngaleso sikhatsi tindzaba letide emagama laqosheme letitsembekile letitsinza tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni
kusukela kutepolitiki, tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele. Siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhatsi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulomsakato siphindze sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letichamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba lowutiletselwa ngumsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV.
Ngonela omuhle siphindze sikwamukele ehlelweni sibuke nathi tindzaba. Umhlonishwa Mvunankhulu njengoba uthi-ke njengoba hulumende savele sangenile ehhovisi sebavele balakhile luhlwa lwetinfo lekumele tisentshetwe ngalamakhulu emagonso njengoba sive saveta esibayeni. Dlamini uthi lokunye labatakwenda kule minyaka lesihlanu letako kuthuthukisa live bagcile enchubeni yetinkhundla ngako-ke litiko letinkhundla litawesekeleka ngayo yonke indlela. Dlamini bekakhuluma emahhovisini yetindvuna tembuso ngesikhathi achaza ukuthi yini hulumende latayenda kule minyaka lesihlanu asesehhovisi. Umbiko-ke logcwele naketfula inkulumo yakhe lonkangandvunankhulu sitawutfola uMagabanca insimbi yesithupha ngemuva kokuthi-ke sikhulumisane nebaka Eswatini Revenue Service. Kanti-ke sisachubeka nato tindzaba liphini landvunankhulu uThulisile Dladla licela eMaswati ukuthi yambeketelele hulumende asalungisa indzaba yekweswelakala kwemithi etibhedlela kanye nekushoda kwetisebenzi. Liphini landvunankhulu belikhuluma esibhedlela lesikhulu sahulumende eMbabane ngesikhathi liyawuhlola ukuthi eMaswati asitakala njani kulesibhedlela. Dladla bekahambisana nendvuna yetemphilo Mduduzi Mathebula.
eMaswati esibayeni amcela uhulumende ukuthi nakangena nje ehhovisi ayisebenzele ngekusheshsha indzaba yekweswelakala kwemithi etibhedlela tahulumende. Nembalake lomuhla liphini landvunankhulu uThulisile Dladla nendvuna yetempilo Mduduzi Mathebula bavakashele lapha esibhedlela sahulumende eMbabane kutawutibonela mathupha simo nekuva nje ukuthi eMaswati atsini kulesibhedlela.
Sesivile shortage yestaff nako konke lo so njenjalo losiya ecabinet funds siku-addresse konke la ngilolekelela minister ukuthi uma addressa letinto sisho sesiphuma khona sesibonile sesikhulumile nayo i-administration vele siyatidzinga ukuze sikhone kuresponda kulama concerns eMaswati nema-concerns etihlobo tethu lebasitile ukuthi sakhele sigcini namuhla sitawubuya sibuke indzaba yema-drugs ukuthi le ndzaba lokunye lokuphuma kokuthi adliwe nguzibani abakwendela bafuna umsebenzi wabo lwabo kubona ukuthi kudle bani phathini asithi make sure ukuthi akhona ama-drugs athi eMaswati afika la akhanze ukuthi ayithola le service konke lokho sitamlekelela minister sesibonile lapha ku-pharmacy ukuthi vele kuyashoda lokunyenti nalama volume abantu lebedala vele ngeke ahlala angashodi if ema-supplies alama-drugs etakancane.
Indvuna yetempilo ithi ihledi nebaphathi belitiko letempilo babuka tindlu lebatawutenda ngekushesha netindlu letitawutsatsa sikhatsi kepha-ke titawugcine tilungisekile.
Lo sila sesibonile singakala kuthi kuyocashwa. Uhulumende sowuvele ulivulile lelo fastelo. Ngilokunye lesitawukwenda masinyane lokuthi kuqale kusebenzeke eMaswati alibone lishintsho.
Baphathi balesibhedlela bathi nakuqedwa kwakhiwa lolu hlangothi lolusha yasala indzaba yetisebenzi njengoba kuthiwa kune-establishment registry lekulinani letisebenzi lelitiko letempilo bathi kunesidingo lesikhulu ukuthi ihambe yawubuketwa le-establishment registry. Nembala njengoba ingonyama yamnyala uhulumende ukuthi akube ngukwe kuyabonakala-ke lo nkwe buto tindvuna tembuso. Zabente Eswatini TV ngingilingithini kule nginavuma inkosi inzinisa sembabane.
Indvuna yetekwatisa Savana Mazia seyicele tonke itinkampani letingephansi kwaleli tiko kanye nalabasebenzisana nabo kutsi kube bede kuchudzelana kepha kubanjiswane kute kusitakale sive seMaswati. Indvuna yekuvete lokhu ehhotela le-Hilton Garden Inn ngesikhatsi inkampani yaka-MTN igubha iminyaka lengemashumi 25 yacala kusebenta eSwatini.
Collaboration is very critical. When I look at MTN as a business, I know that sometimes government looks at business and says they cannot be trusted. I'd like for us to begin a journey of collaboration. I'd like for us to look at everybody in this room as a partner to our department who really wants to focus on serving the people of Eswatini. A few words come to me when I think about the service we need to be looking at. Reach. We've spoken about reach being at 90%, 95%, but real reach. Can children who go to school be able to access education? Can healthcare records be able to be accessed? Can information be at the hands of everyone? Can we give everybody a proper e-government?
Umphatho ka-MTN Wandile Mjalo udumise ingwenyama ngekulanza inkampani ka-MTN ukuthi ite nayo itawufaka sandla ekuthuthukiseni ihlangothi leteqhumana kulelive. Indvuna ithi kusemgomeni wayo ngekubanjiswa tinkampani tonke tetekuchumana nematiko ahulumende kutsi lonke lusito lwahulumende emaswati alitfole asebentisa tindlela tebuchwephesha. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV ngingilingithini Kule tithombe titfolakele enkampanini yaka-MTN.
Mapalani lomkhulu etiko letebuchwephesha phesheya Dube uthi emagugu elive abufakazi lobumcokwa ngelimuva welakuleli ke ikakhulukati kulesikhathi lapho khona lwati liguquka liba ngumnotfo i-information economy. Dube ukusho lokhu ngesikhathi inhlangothi letahlukahlukene letitsindzekako ticola umgomo lobuke kulondvolotwa kwemagugu i-Eswatini National Archives and Record Service Acquisition Policy ehotela lase-Happy Valley.
Mapalelo omkhulu etiko letebuchwephesha phesheya Dube usemagugu elive agcina umlandvo walelive emaswati laphila kulo iphindze futhi ihlanganise nemphakatsi. Dube beyakatsi amelele ngilobuke inhlalakahle etisebenti kuleli tiko Jonathan Dlamini.
It is challenging to acquire valuable historical records that capture the
Utsi nakude lo mgomo lo kungaba likhuni kutfola imvelaphi yesive semaswati.
Thus, this acquisition policy will serve as a backbone for making acquisition decisions.
Laba vele tinkampanini letihlukahlukene labangenelelo mhlangano sikolwa bona babeka kanjena.
Le policy seyitawucondzisa kwekuthi ngumaphi ema records noma lemniningwane lengiyona kumele ukuthi siyinakekele kusukela italwa leyo mininingwane lela seyikhicita khona kulama institutions noma kumbe kuletindzawo la sisebentela khona.
Kuyasita ke lokho ukuthi noma ngabe ngalelinye ilanga leyo ncwadi njengathi nje sema publishers la publisher incwadi tetikolo ingasekho etikolweni akhone umuntu ukuthi ahambe ayoyitfola leyo information kuma archives.
Lo mgomo yeSwatini National Archives and Record Service Acquisition Policy utawusita nasekuvikeleni umlandvo womuntu ngamunye nekucinisa Buswati etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla nginathemba Shabangu sisezulwini.
Imalunga eParliamente kanye netimphunga ticeceshwe kabanti ngenchubo yeParliamente yetindlu totimbili. Mapalane weParliamente Benedict Xaba uthi lokuceceshwa kwalabahlonishwa kutawusita ekutheni bathi indlela lengiyo yekusebenta kanye nendlela yokuthi batawubheka ukuthi batiphathe kanjani njengabahlonishwa. Xaba bekakhuluma nakuchubeka lo mhlangano sikolwa ezulwini.
Emalunga eParliamente endlu yabayisikhulu kanye nemalunga endlu yetimphunga aceceshwe ngendlela labatawubhekeka ukuthi basebente ngayo nabaseParliamente. Mapalane weParliamente Benedict Xaba uthi lokufundziswa kwalabahlonishwa kufaka ekhatsi kuti babe nelwati lokuthi tishukumiso tiphakamiswa kanjani.
Kusho ukuthi nyalo sicale ema-standing orders tindlu totimbili njengalo wati ukuthi mawukhuluma ngeParliamente kufuneka uyati inqubo ukuthi iParliamente isebenta kanjani njengalo ubuka ukuthi mawubuka kubahlonishwa labanyenti vele basha kodwa noma bokhona itolo ema-standing orders ethu siwashintshile sikhiphe nje lamashasha lengiwona ke ukuthi wonke umuntu kufuneka abahlonishwa bawati so ke lamhla sicalile tindlu totimbili sicale eksenda sicale tahlangana khona nje kwaba nebrief ikakhulu i-wellness program yabo nyalo ke setehlukene kusho nje ukuthi timbunga nato tibuka ato ukuthi inqubo esendlini uwenta njani kuqala nje ama basic vele ukuthi uyini lokubalunga leParliamente mawungena wenta njani nekuthi ke bathi ukuthi ema questions nyalo njalo seyikhona executive aphakanyiswa njani ema motions kanjalo nema questions.
Xaba uthi lo mhlangano sikolwa wenvulela umhlangano lomkhulu lotawubanjwa evikini lelitako lesolo nawo uhlose ukuthi labahlonishwa bafundziseke cishe kuto tonke tinhlangothi teParliamente. Etindzabeni kubika Sondo Mlangeni na Fortune Dlangamandla ezulwini.
Njengoba tekuchumana netebuciko tingiletinye ke tetinhlangothi letifaka sandla lesibande ekuthuthukiseni umnotho welive kumcoka ukuthi sive sifinyelele kuto lokhu kushiwo ngumvila wemphi Dlamini longumphathi wenkampani yahulumende leyengamele tekuchumana kuleli Escom.
Lokumcoka ngale reporting lokuthi iyakhona kusita live ethi lakhe ama programs ekubuka ukuthi ikhebe setingala kufuna sivale ngala sende nje ama policies latawukhona ku-addressa lawo ma-gaps latholakele nasenda loqwaningo. Le report-ke nawe igwabula vele iyadichaza yona nje ukuthi kuthi nekuthi kwangaka besilisa labakhona labane-access ku-internet bangaka, laba besifazane kumbe laba nema-TV ekhaya bangaka. Ngicabanga nje ngathi ngiloko kakhulu lokukhona sive singabana qina ukuthi la statistics la kule report vele angawo level esiwashare nemhlaba wonke.
Umphathi weminyango wetelubalo etiko letekuhlela umnotfo uThembinkosi Shabalala uthi uhulumende utawukhona kwakha tinhlelo letifanele letitawusombulula letinye tetinsayeya letivetwa ngulombiko.
Umsebenzi umcoka kakhulu tibalo lesitikutsako tisetshenziswa nguhulumende ukuthi ende tinhlelo takhe tekulungisa lapho kushoda khona. Njengoba uvile siyacala kuyenda le survey lena lokusicala kufanele ukuthi siyende kahle ekucaleni.
Sinye setihloko talombiko sikhomba ukuthi kubantu labasebentisa tebuciko bangu-85% labathola i-internet ekhaya kanti labayicela emakhaya alabanye bangu-2%. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Mbongwa Dube eMafini.
Mphathi wemsakato wetitfombe Eswatini TV Mlamuli Dlamini uthi umsakato usetochubeka ngemandla kusebenta tindzaba tekuhlukubetana ngetebulili kutesive semaswati sitobangileso lesihlalisana ngekuthula nelutsandvo. Dlamini ushito lamagama anakemukela inhlangano ye-1 Billion Rising Solidarity levakashele lesiteshi samabonakudze kutawusukumisa umkhankaso wemalanga lalishumi-nesitfupha lohlose kucedza kuhlukubetana ngetebulili emhlabeni. Nomkhankaso ucala mhla tingemashumi-25 ute uyawuphela mhla tilishumi enyangeni yeNgongoni.
Siqubulo salonyaka salomkhankaso sithi asisukumeni simele inkululeko sakhe indlela lensha yokuphila sicedze kuhlukubetana ngetebulili. Umphathi wesiteshi Eswatini TV Mlamuli Dlamini uthi kuhlukubetana akuphele kuto tonke tindzawo lokufaka ekhatsi nasemisebentini.
Ngumlayeto lona lekufuna uviwe ngilo lonke liswati lomdvuna nalomsikati ngoba umlayeto lomqoka ikakhulu kuletikhatsi lesesiphila kuto kuletindzaba lesesitiva nje ukuthi kwentekalani kuma communities lesiphila kuwo kwentekalani emakhaya yindzaba lemcwa kakhulu yinkulumo iconversation lemcwa kakhulu lekufuna vele sihlale siba nayo njalo.
Umchumaniso wetinhlelo enhlanganweni i-1 Billion Rising Xolani Hlatshwako uthi akuphele kubantu ukuthi uma bakwentela lokuthite bese bacabanga ukuthi bangenta noma yini ngawe.
Sikubonile, it's how men tend to think they have power and control over women. Sifuna nje ukukhuthata lamadoda lala kaSwazi TV Eswatini TV kuthi akhuthate nalamanye kuthi akunandoda lecabanga ukuthi yona seyinemandla seyicontroller whether ngilelishendelayo noma ngile girlfriend yayo noma ngilomfati wayo noma nje ngikuphi lobudlelwane lenisuka noma umthengela staradini lalabanye labatsengako.
Imibiko yetekuhlukubetana ngetebulili lokugcina kuhambe nemphefumulo kuleli kwanzile kulamalanga kanti kubulawa kakhulu kubomake kanye nebantwana. Intfo lomkhankaso lohlose kuyicedza nya. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Mbongwa Dube eMbabane.
Inhlangano lebuka emalungelo ebantfwana kanye nekucinisekisa ukuthi bantfwana bayafinyelela emfundweni i-Eswatini Network Campaign for Education for All kanye-ke naleyo yemakomiti etikolweni i-Eswatini Schools Committee and Parents Association ticela ukuthi isijeziso sebafundzi labatsinsekako emaphepheni yaka Form 5 lampunjukile kungabi nguleso lesitawubulala likusasa labo noma-ke bagangile.
Letinhlangano litfaka ekhatsi i-Eswatini Network Campaign for Education for All SWANSEFA kanye naleyo yelikomiti etikolweni tembatali i-Eswatini Schools Committee and Parents Association eSkapa titsa kulandzelwa imitsetfo lekhona uma kushiswa abafundzi labatsinsekako ebucaleni bemaphepha lasikhombisa tifundo letini lampuntshuka aseyasabaliswa etinkundleni tekuchumana angakabhalwa.
Lokwentekile kubi kakhulu Akusibe kahle leli izinga lemfundo yethu akulibe kahle. Kepha labamfana noma bangatholakala ukuthi babo bani bakuphi labende lokucala lobu. Lokumcoka ukuthi sibuke likusasa labo. Sibuke imfundo yabo. Singendi lokho lokuthi awuthikameda likusasa labo. Ngoba solo baba mfana noma ngabe bende lokuganga lokunjena. Kepha solo baba mfana. So lokumcoka lesikusho ukuthi sijeziso lesitawukhishwa kulaba mfana. Asingabi ngileso lesitawukhinyabeda likusasa labo.
Wamuvu nami bongasho ukuthi Nkosi yami abasuphucwa le human right ekufunza, because this one is a basic human right education abafunze, but le punishment yabo bangabona abantu abadala ukuthi i-applya nini, not now.
Ngalesibili mabhalane welibandla loluhlolo kuleli Examinations Council of Eswatini Dr. Mandla Nkosi Dlamini wathi sebethi indlibeti indzaba ukuthi kulobucala bekufohla kwalamaphepha kutsinzeka abothishela abafunzi kanye netisebenti esikolwa thiteni okubeka ngasobala ukuthi batawujeziswa labatsinzekako ngephandle nje kwekuthi indzaba yabo isemaphoyiseni. Etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla nginampendulo Gumbi sisezulwini.
Kutemidlalo likomidi lelibuke kudlalisa indzebe engwenyama cup esifundzeni sakaHhohho selvetile kutsi emancamo alendzebe emkhatsini kwekapa kanye ne-Young Lovers atawubanjwa ngelisonto enkhundleni yaseKhilanei eSpeki kanti ke kutawubita imali lengu-20 emalangeni kubukela.
Ma-logistics ke latsinza ikakhulu tihlwele kungena khona kutabe kum-20 emalangeni. So lesikakushinji amagede sitawavula ngensimbi ye-12 sho singa-12 emini ngilakhona sitawavula khona amagede makucembuke nani betindzaba you are also requested lokho ukuthi please be referred to Article 16 of lama rules lolo khulumisa le price breakdown ukuthi la sidlala khona sitawuhamba sizofika ekugcineni. So the price breakdown in regard to this tournament is articulated in the last page, that is Article 16 of the very same rules and regulations.
Likhetselo lesive lemdlalo werugby sizeze solo sesihleli endzaweni ya-104 kuwo emave langu-112 langaphansi kwayo inhlangano lengamele kudlalisa lo mdlalo emhlabeni.
Ngemuva kokuphela kwendzebe yemihlaba yemidlalo yerabhi libeyibanjwe e-11 laseFrance ngenyanga lephelile, inhlangano engamele kudlalisa umdlalo werabhi emhlabeni ikhokha umbiko olumusha ukuthi amakhethelo lesive ime kanjani. Ikhethelo lesive lakuleli emidlalo werabhi sizeze solo sihlete endzaweni yesi-104 kumave lang-112 langaphasi kwayo lenhlangano engamele kudlalisa lo mdlalo emhlabeni. Nakuphuma lemphumela ngenyanga lephelile sizeze besisolo sihlete endzaweni yesi-104. Kanzi nakugcina kuphuma lemphumela ngenyanga yengci kulomnyaka losetulu sizeze besihlete endzaweni yesi-101. Ngenyanga yendlovu lenkulu besihlete endzaweni yesi-102. Inhlangano engamele kudlalisa lo mdlalo lapha eveni Eswatini Rugby Union ichazile ukuthi lemiphumela kubangelwa yini ukuthi ingabi ngile mihle ukuthi likhethelo lesive lakuleli lingatholi lithuba lekocutselana nalamanye amave. Lenhlangano ichazile ukuthi kunginyalo isachubeka netinhlelo tekuzama ukuthuthukisa lo mdlalo. Lenhlangano ithi itawutama ukuthi umnyaka losetulu uphele ikhonile kucutselana nalamanye amave. Kulamanye amave aselivekatini le-Afrika nesifundza lesingentasi nalelivekati Springbok lokuyiningizimu Afrika ehlete esichongweni ngemuva komphakamisa indzebe yemhlaba. iZimbabwe isendzaweni yesi-31 emhlabeni kanzi yesibili kulelivekati kanye nalesifundza bese kuthi iZambia inyukile isendzaweni yesi-68 emhlabeni kanzi yesithathu kulesifundza. Emhlabeni live le-Ireland ihlete endzaweni yesibili kanye neNew Zealand yona lisendzaweni yesithathu. Lobikela umsakazo Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini kanzi umnikuhlanzo ngiFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Kwalomhla etingako tindzaba talomhla ekuseni ake sibuke ukuthi simo selitulu sithini bese sibahlo light market.
Asibinzele sinemukele sakuvusela nawo losandza kusivulela it's a Friday ngabo lesihlanu siteka tona tindzaba tekubhadalwa kwemthelo evikini leliphelile besikhuluma nge-International Fraud Awareness Week lecala mhla ka-12 kuya kumhla ka-18 November kanti namhla sitabe sikhuluma ngesondzela sikhulume campaign lesikunyiswe ngiyo inkampani ERS njengendlela nje le proactive yekusita emakhasimende akhe-ERS ngekunciphisa tikweleti tabo temthelo. Inkampani ke ERS se-introduce tindlela letimbili letisisombululo sokubhadala letikweleti. I'm joined by Communications Director ka-ERS Vusi Dlamini kutosichazela kabanti ngato letindlela. Nkosi, a very good morning and welcome once again Thaba ngutube naso nomhla ekseni. Sen-introduce tindlela letintsha Nkosi tekuzama kusondzela sive samaswati ukuthi sikhona naso ukubhadala letikweleti sondzela sikhulume campaign. Tell us more about this campaign.
Thank you very much, Lulu. Basically, as also mentioned, mhlawumbe singacala ku background. I think if sikhuluma ngasondzela sikhulume, it's a campaign that we are running, which are basically, if we go see as Singisini, we could say it is basically saying come closer and let's have a chat. And basically we are saying nangabe kusho ukuthi uyati ukuthi kunetikweleti lonato letihambisana nemthelo ungahambeli khashane with the ERS, come closer noma ke sondzela sito ukhona ukuthi sikhulumisane. So ngulenye indlela lesizama ngayo ukuthi sisondzete lawo ma clients ethu lokhanza ukuthi analeto tikweleti temthelo. Mhlawumbe as you said in your introduction, there's two critical things here. I think it's at some point in time indvuna yetemafa Neil Reichenberg waphakamisa luhlelo lapho khona kwathiwa labo labanetikweleti mhlawumbe lesetihambe takaptsela tenga mhlawumbe leyo interest yenga ku principal amount. If I were to make an example, let's say isikweleti sakho bese 100,000 emalangeni, leyo interest ngekuthi solo awubhadali leso sikweleti seyihambe yaze yenga ku 100,000 saying 120,000. Labanye ke bosomabhizinisi bebakhala ngokuthi vele seyisetulu kakhulu such that sekubafaka emadolweni ngokuthi babhadale labo leto tikweleti tabo. Yaseke indvuna yetemafa ithi kusukela nyalo ngaDisemba mhlawumbe kuya embili leso sikweleti nangabe kusho ukuthi leyo principal yakho ing100,000 emalangeni interest akafanele ukuthi yenze. So laba lesibasonzetako ukuthi abasondzele betekithi kwekucala ngulabo lokhanza ukuthi bana leso simo lesikanjalo siyaba encourage ukuthi abetekithi sitohlala phasi sibuke ukuthi leso sikweleti mhlawumbe labanaso singasenda kanjani kwekucala sisusela leyo interest mhlawumbe ukuthi ifike kuleli zinga lesithi ayengi kuleyo principal. But furthermore the campaign is then saying asihlale phasi sikhulumisane ke ngalesikweleti lesinye lesesisalako ukuthi engabe nguyiphi indlela lesingayenda ukuthi usibhadale leso sikweleti mhlawumbe ngema terms lathide. So then the second bit is specifically speaking to those lokhanza ukuthi vele banaleto tikweleti mhlawumbe abakhona ukuthi ibhadala labanye babo bangenile kuma payment terms nathi mhlawumbe in the past, but ukhanza ukuthi they are struggling. We are seeing that ukhanza ukuthi labanye uyabhadala lamhla but the next month akasakhona kuyi-ownerisha. Ukhanza ukuthi ke labanye sebahamba luwonke abasabuyi. We are then saying please come closer as well, come to us noma ngabe bowuyendile leyo arrangement awusakhona, come to us, let us engage further and see how we can assist you to ensure that ubhadala leso sikweleti sakho kahle.
Okay. Kubona nje ukuthi nize nje nisukumisa imikhankaso lena lesondzela sikhulume campaign nale debt relief program lesiyiswa nguMinister Neil Reichenberg. Ingabe vele Nkosi isalaphi vele lana kumakhasimende eni lokuthi vele njalo bona basalele emuva. Ingabe ngitiphi izaphi labativetako nje ukuthi kungani vele lo mthelo bangawukhokhi ngesikhathi?
There would be a number of reasons. I think some of them will be saying maybe their cash flow situation would not be what it is, but we have seen situations where you find that labanye
ngidawubekisa lolu ukhanza ukuthi etindzabeni te-VAT la sibone khona cishe kakhulu ukhanza ukuthi uyayibhadalisa umuntu i-VAT kumakhasimende akhe ngekwekuthi nawusitawukhumbula kahle i-VAT ibhadalwa either ngenyanga njalo ngenyanga noma ibhadalwe ngemva kwetinyanga letintsatfu la sithi khanze sine kukhinyabeteka khona ke noma lapho labanye ama-clients bakhanza bakhinyabeteka khona ngilaba lokhanza ukuthi bayiletha ngemva kwetinyanga letintsatfu i-VAT ukhanza ukuthi by the time kufanele bayilethe le VAT after the 3 months sebavele because remember bayikolekile from their customers but ukhanza ukuthi sebayisebenzisele letinye tintfo kanti phela le mali ideally nangabe boyikoleka kube besithi kwendeka ngandlela lenye bekufanele ukuthi nayingena uyilethe ngakithi but then the law says you can bring it after 3 months so it's also a question of whether or not our clients are able to plan particularly their cash flows because my assumption is that if we kolekile le mali over the period of 3 months and then the following month you are supposed to bring it if you've planned your things accordingly kufanele ukuthi ukhone ukuthi uyilethe leyo mali after the 3 months so that is what we have seen as the major thing and what we then did actually mhlawumbe kungena a little bit deeper on that we then find ourselves in a situation where we change some of the clients from submitting on a quarterly basis to actually submit on a monthly basis so that bangati can't buy in a situation where they are actually using the money for other things instead of paying it over to the ERS.
Okay, so this applies, Leson's campaign applies to every client nje lobhadala umthelo.
Yes, it applies to every client. If you are a client of the ERS and you are facing challenges or you find yourself in a situation where you have a debt, whether the debt is above or the interest is above the principal or you just have a debt and you're struggling to pay it, we are saying come closer, let's have an engagement so that we find a way to help you pay the debt at the end of the day within reasonable time.
Okay, nalabo mhlawumbe lokwenza ukuthi ama-accounts abo sewa-freeze wakadzeni can they still come to the ERS nabo kuhlaliswana phansi ne-ERS kubukiswana ukuthi ngabe bangakhona kubhadala kanjani ukuze atokhona mhlawumbe ama-funds abe-released?
Definitely, we're saying any client of ours that khanza mhlawumbe akuleso simo where abakakhona ukubhadala and sekwendeke lelo khuluma ngako lesithi that's the way in which we are enforcing. We're saying let's not fight, come closer, let's engage, let's have that chat so that at the end of the day you are finding yourself in a situation where we are khona ukuthi ubhadale and ubhadale accordingly.
Okay, nalenye lebalekile nje Kusile ngifuna sikhulume ngayo nje namuhla njengoba kulilanga lelikhulu for most of my consumers Black Friday siyadluka ukuthi njalo ngabo Black Friday labanye batawukhanza ukuthi sebaphuma phandle kwelive bayenda ama shopping bayothenga leto dimvu labafuna ukuthenga bese babuya bangena nato even ingabe vele mhlawumbe kukhona yini mhlawumbe longafisa nje ukugcwayisa kona sibe ukuthi besawuthenga le siphathani in terms of my receipts my invoices.
Sibanga lolu kungaba kucizelela nakuloko siyadi ukuthi amaswati ukhanza ukuthi ayaphuma emaborder ngekwehlukana ikakhulukade we will speak to lama border posts where we are bordering South Africa and particularly the commercial borders which is Ngwenya, Sandlane, Mahamba, Lavumisa and then bese sibuya east where we're talking to Mananga and Matsamo. Those are the 6 borders. Ngilapho sithi apply khona uhlelo lwethu lasekulula very easy la sithi khona as you go out of the country please ensure that you get a brochure that will tell you at the border akhona in all the borders that will tell you ukuthi as you buy the goods what is it that is required naso ubuya kuze uthi na ubuya usebenzise leyo invoice yakho to make a tax payment at the point of entry. One thing we want to emphasize there ukuthi if etimbahla takho ti 5,000 and above kuleyo invoice yinye sicela ukuthi ucele bakubhalele ligama ne-address yakho kangwane nangabe kusho ukuthi idinga 10,000 and above lapho sicizelela ukuthi over and above ligama ne-address yakho ube nayo le proof of payment kuprova ukuthi vele ubhadele on the South African side and emphasis there is that proof of payment should actually be in your name as the person lotawubuyisa le timbahla even la kangwane lokusho ukuthi nangihamba nawe ngilulu bese mhlawumbe ngiyakubhadalela ngisale for instance lena you will find that the goods do not qualify under Segulula. Kufuna ukuthi le payment mode
Ibe
noma le
segameni
proof of
lakho.
payment ibe segameni lakho.
So what then happens? Ngiyakhona ngena nato kumele ngine njani ngideclare ngikhokhe
Yes, you
certain
get to the
amount.
border. The critical thing is that you will have to declare. But if unfortunately they do not qualify, then you are supposed to pay cash. But if they qualify, then we will expect that you will use that invoice to pay for the goods and not necessarily pay cash at the border.
Okay. So nangabe are less than 5,000 or even less than 1,000, am I still also obliged to declare mangifika e-border?
Yes, I think the issue of declaration of goods is a very important one, as you mentioned. All goods that go through the border must be declared, and we always emphasize goods because lama statistics leswabutsako at the points of entry is the same stats that we then use nasia gusaku for the sharing of the revenue with the other countries. So all goods coming through the border must be declared.
Okay, kugcina Nkosi, your contact details ngabe service ixhumana kanjani nani ka-ERS?
Siyatfolakala ku Facebook, sikhona na LinkedIn. Siyacela ukuthi we have posted actually la video lengikhuluma ngayo le sekulula. They can find it in those channels, and we also on our WhatsApp number 76063735. Bangasithola na ku info@ers.org.sz. Bangasishayela nelucingo ku 2406 4050.
Right, thanks so much Nkosi Mbukile. Sesembe ukuthi sawutivele ukuthi ERS ukhona na kuma social media pages mangabe kukhona lokho lofisa ukuvaka abandi ungachumana nabo khona lapho. Kongamanje sita uchubeka nje sindlalele iclip yemhlonishwa Mvunankulu lapho bekakhuluma khona kuma cabinet offices itolo lapho bekathola khona indlela yekusebenta yahulumende kule minyaka lesihlanu lilandzelako.
It is with humility and a great sense of responsibility that I express my gratitude to His Majesty King Mswati III and Her Majesty the Queen Mother for bequeathing their extraordinary trust upon me and appointing me as the head of government and the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Eswatini. The weight of the responsibility that has been entrusted upon me as the new Prime Minister and the new cabinet ministers is enormous, and it carries the hopes and aspirations of all Emaswati, as submitted during the recent historic Sibaya. The multiple crises of poverty, unemployment, gender-based violence, corruption, and health services provision, among other issues that the Kingdom of Eswatini is confronted with, are surmountable, but require all Emaswati to rethink their identity, maintain their cohesion, and to work hard to steer our development aspirations in the right direction. To outline our bold agenda for the next 5 years, it is prudent and imperative that we recall the spirit of Sibaya and summon the strength of resolute patriotism to the kingdom. It is, after all, the land of our forefathers, Livele Nkaba yethu, and the only country where we surely ever genuinely feel at home. Being Pan-African is not a foreign notion to us, but it is an inborn instinct that, like Buntu Betu, must be carefully nurtured for generations to come. I wish to credit our predecessors for their work, which ensured that the country is afloat today and that government business continues unabated. Within the next 5 years, and building on the work of our predecessors, government, the private sector, our international partners, and all Emaswati will work together to transform our economy, create jobs, reduce poverty, and build strong institutions to ensure efficient service delivery and growth. His Majesty's government and the new administration will rigorously pursue the vision of Eswatini attaining the first world status and being identified as a developed country. The government will focus on a few priorities through a sustainable and integrated approach. It is imperative that the Emaswati and the government they elected chart their own path and resist the temptation of being tossed backward and forward, spreading the budget too thinly, and doing too many things, resulting in achieving very little. From the outset, government will formulate and immediately start implementing a short to medium-term plan anchored on the Sibaya submissions. This plan will precede the development of the country's long-term plan, the Grand Plan. The Grand Plan will seek to modernize the country based on the Tinkhundla system as a vehicle for development. The Ministry of Tinkhundla Administration and Development will therefore be strengthened institutionally. Embedded in the long-term plan will be the country's socio-economic development model and the investment models that will be at the center of government's plans and operations and will transform both the economic and social outlook through investment attraction and job creation. Through this plan, we hope to create an environment that will attract investment, foster exponential growth, and nurture innovation, ultimately ensuring sustainable job opportunities and well-being for all. We will work towards a society where every citizen, including persons with disabilities, women and children, as well as the elderly, feel safe and valued. We will improve the education curricula to reflect our African values and instill a winning mindset. The curricula of vocational institutions will be strengthened with business acumen. We will strengthen the healthcare system by finding a lasting solution to the current crisis and by strategically increasing the focus on preventive health. Government will give due attention to social services on which the poor and vulnerable depend. The potential of agriculture will be harnessed to employ many of our unemployed youth. This will be through large projects of commercialization, mechanization, and building strong market systems that offer attractive returns to individual farmers. We will ensure that our agriculture systems are adapted to climate change while fostering resilience and ensuring food security and sovereignty. Every sector and government department will be integrated into this plan to attain the desired growth. Information, communication and technology, tourism, mining, and manufacturing, among other important sectors, will receive appropriate attention and investment from government. Our infrastructure development plans will be ambitious and reflective of the mindset of thinking big. With the majority of people predicted to live in cities, the future is urban, and it is critical that we build resilient infrastructure that is long-lasting. Government will endeavor to complete all outstanding projects and ensure that new projects are cost-effective, timelessly completed, and responsive to the needs of the people. As part of the global community, Eswatini will continue to consider important global issues such as attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, climate change initiatives, and disaster risk reduction. The Kingdom of Eswatini is forearmed and must not be caught off guard by any hazardous event, whether natural or man-made, such as the recent upheavals and COVID-19. This administration will fight corruption by ensuring that the public sector acts in the interest of the people, by being transparent and accountable, and by exposing all corrupt activities. The capacity of all government institutions that have a role in fighting and eradicating corruption will be significantly strengthened. We will promote the rule of law and strengthen the capacity of the police services to enforce the laws of our land. The need to inculcate a culture of excellence reverberated throughout Sibaya submissions. Our roadmap for development and economic growth, therefore, shall be underpinned by a demonstration of excellence. It is the plan of this administration to remodel public service in line with the culture of excellence to ensure effective service delivery. I am encouraged by the kind words and well wishes that I have received since my appointment as the Prime Minister. I would like to end my speech by pledging my commitment to serving His Majesty the King, Her Majesty the Queen Mother, and the entire people of Eswatini, and commit to ensuring a measurable improvement in the lives of Emaswati. I urge Cabinet to work together and to serve the nation with integrity as we build a strong, resilient nation and endeavor to attain the vision of Eswatini being the best place to live in and being the best place for investment.
Benguyekelo yendvunankulu Prime Minister Russell Dlamini akhuluma njengestrategy seliminyaka lesihlanu letako lapho khona uhulumende bheke ukuthi tawusebenza ngaphansi kwalo mhlawumbe ndvunankulu kuyathembisa ukuthi bo minister kanye naye Prime Minister batawusebenza ngecommand yengwenyama yankwe. Sawahletha mangethana sibuya sitawuchubeka nehlelo.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line, controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide. At the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones, we did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you, the people of Eswatini and teams of first responders.
For all of the advances women have made within the economy and society, we still have a long way to go. Research from the World Bank has shown that closing the gender employment gap could raise long-term GDP per capita by nearly 20% on average across countries. And what amazes me is why we continue to miss these opportunities.
No tenemos que tener complejos en decir que existen desigualdades y que queremos luchar.
Global Gender Gap 2023 shows that women are denied opportunities, economic participation, leadership, decision-making as well.
There is an increasing need to have more women in the global economy. The more they are involved, the more economies grow. And this is the first time for the WTO is organizing such a landmark event involving young people from all over the world.
The objective of the Youth Trade Summit on Gender was to build the next generation of trade and gender experts. We invited 56 young professionals from government and research institutions to come at the WTO to exchange on trade and gender, to meet with more senior researchers and WTO members and WTO ambassadors to really understand better the realm of trade and gender. So in the end, the summit serves as a talent incubator.
It was an opportunity to meet a lot of experts on trade gender issues, an opportunity to meet them face to face, to interact with them. It's not the end, it's only the start.
I learned that it's not only important to apply a gender lens in my gender work, but also to consider gender in every aspect of my work. I work a lot on climate and trade, and I'll definitely be taking a lot of my gender considerations and new practices to that work as well.
I think getting to know and meet
los colegas de otros países.
I think it's really important to have young professionals given a place on the table to understand really how to integrate gender in all aspects of trade and in the larger development picture.
Today, we are recognizing contributions from two distinguished researchers whose outstanding work over the years has yielded new insights, and a deeper understanding of how trade and gender equality relate to each other.
The WTO has several initiatives to promote gender equality in trade. One of them is the Informal Working Group on Trade and Gender, which was established by 80% of the WTO members. They are looking at sex disaggregated data collection. They are looking at how to make gender-responsive trade policies. They are looking at aid for trade. They are also looking at research.
Todo el apoyo a la Organización Mundial del Comercio, el excelente trabajo que estáis haciendo, promover esa conciencia de género y de la perspectiva de género en las negociaciones. Por tanto, la igualdad es un imperativo, primero, de justicia social y es además un imperativo económico.
I think it really starts with changing the mind of our society, obviously, and I think that if we start there, the beginning is to show our youth that it is possible.
Inclusive trade is at the heart of the WTO's work. Supporting integration of women in international trade is one of its key components, and I believe that we can only move forward in this goal if we involve.
We at Eswatini Television Authority are committed to observing the Eswatini Communication Commission's Broadcasting Code of Conduct.
Under the code, we are committed to broadcast news that is current, free from hate speech, accurate, balanced, and fair.
From politics to business, health, agriculture, courts, and global news, we bring you the latest updates as they happen.
Welcome back. This is the news. The Prime Minister Russell Dlamini says government has formulated and will immediately implement a short to medium-term plan. The Premier says the grand plan will seek to modernize the country based on the Tinkhundla system of government. Dlamini was speaking in Cabinet when delivering his maiden speech as the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Eswatini, where he was outlining government's strategic plan for the next 5 years.
The weight of the responsibility that has been entrusted upon me as the new Prime Minister and the new Cabinet Ministers is enormous, and it carries the hopes and aspirations of all Emaswati, as submitted during the recent historic Sibaya. The multiple crises of poverty, unemployment, gender-based violence, corruption, and health services provision, among other issues that the Kingdom of Eswatini is confronted with, are surmountable but require all Emaswati to rethink their identity, maintain their cohesion. Administration will rigorously pursue the vision of Eswatini attaining the first world status and being identified as a developed country. The government will focus on a few priorities through a sustainable and integrated approach. It is imperative that the Emaswati and the government they elected chart their own path and resist the temptation of being tossed backward and forward, spreading the budget too thinly, and doing too many things, resulting in achieving very little. We will work towards a society where every citizen, including persons with disabilities, women and children, as well as the elderly, feel safe and valued. We will improve the education curricula to reflect our African values and instill a winning mindset. The curricula of vocational institutions will be strengthened with business acumen. We will strengthen the healthcare system by finding a lasting solution to the current crisis and by strategically increasing the focus on preventive health. Government will give due attention to social services on which the poor and vulnerable depend. As part of the global community, Eswatini will continue to consider important global issues such as attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, climate change initiatives, and disaster risk reduction. The Kingdom of Eswatini is forearmed and must not be caught off guard by any hazardous event, whether natural or man-made, such as the recent upheavals and COVID-19. This administration will fight corruption by ensuring that the public sector acts in the interest of the people, by being transparent and accountable, and by exposing all corrupt activities. The capacity of all government institutions that have a role in fighting and eradicating corruption will be significantly strengthened. We will promote the rule of law and strengthen the capacity of the police services to enforce the laws of our land. I would like to end my speech by pledging my commitment to serving His Majesty the King, Her Majesty the Queen Mother, and the entire people of Eswatini, and commit to ensuring a measurable improvement in the lives of Emaswati. I urge Cabinet to work together and to serve the nation with integrity as we build a strong, resilient nation and endeavor to attain the vision of Eswatini being the best place to live in and being the best place for investment.
The Deputy Prime Minister Kusile says government is addressing all health challenges in the kingdom. She was speaking when touring the new wing at the Mbabane Government Hospital alongside the Minister for Health, Mduduzi Mathebula.
Health challenges engulfing the Ministry of Health are some of the concerns that were raised by Emaswati during the People's Parliament. On Thursday, the Deputy Prime Minister Kusile alongside the Minister of Health Mduduzi Mathebula visited the facility to ascertain the degree of the challenges and how Emaswati are being treated.
Sesivile shortage staff nako konke lo so njenyalo lo siya ecabinet fancy ku address konke la ngento lekelela minister uthi umathi address letinto sisho sesiphuma khona sesibonile sesikhulumile nayo administration vele siyadidzinga ukuze sikhone ku responda kulama concerns eMaswati nema concerns etihlobo tethu lebasithi lokuthi sakhela sigcina namuhla sitawubuya sibuke indzaba yema drugs ukuthi le ndzaba lokunye lokuphuma kokuthi adliwe nguzibanibani abakwendela bafuna umsebenzi wabo lwabo kubona ukuthi kudle bani phathini asithi make sure ukuthi akukhona ama drugs athe Maswati afika la akhanze ukuthi ayithola le service konke lokho sitamlekelela minister sesibonile lapha ku pharmacy ukuthi vele kuyashoda lokunyenti nalama volume abantu lebedala vele ngeke ahlala ngashoti if supplies alama drugs etakancane.
The minister is pleading with the nation to bear with them while they are sorting out all the challenges that are facing the Ministry of Health.
Losla sesibonile singakala ukuthi kuyoqashwa uhulumende sovela ulivulile lelo fastelo ngilokunye lesita ukwenda masinyane lokho ukuthi kuqale kusebenzeke eMaswati alibone lishintsho.
His Majesty King Mswati III alongside Emaswati during the People's Parliament beseeched government to ensure that they address all the challenges that are facing this country soonest. For Eswatini TV News, I'm LinkedIn Kule with Vumingosi Nzinisa in Mbabane.
The Minister for ICT, Savannah Mazia, has urged all ICT-based companies in the kingdom to collaborate and compete against each other to improve service delivery. The Minister was speaking during the 25th anniversary of MTN Eswatini, which was held at the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel in Mbabane.
Collaboration is very critical. When I look at MTN as a business, I know that sometimes government looks at business and says they cannot be trusted. I'd like for us to begin a journey of collaboration. I'd like for us to look at everybody in this room as a partner to our department who really wants to focus on serving the people of Eswatini. A few words come to me when I think about the service we need to be looking at. Reach. We've spoken about reach being at 90%, 95%. But real reach. Can children who go to school be able to access education? Can healthcare records be able to be accessed? Can information be at the hands of everyone? Can we give everybody a proper e-government?
The Chief Executive Officer of MTN Eswatini, Wandile Mjali, applauded His Majesty King Mswati III for bringing MTN to the Kingdom of Eswatini. He says the role that has been played by MTN in transforming the ICT sector is second to none. The minister says her mandate is to ensure that e-government is not a dream, but a reality, and is felt by all Emaswati. For Eswatini TV News, I'm LinkedIn Gule, visual source from MTN.
The Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology Principal Secretary Pechia Dube says archives are critical testament of our past experiences as a nation, especially in an era when the country is transitioning to knowledge-based economy. He says archives are critical in embodying the intellectual capital that fuels an information economy. He said this during the Eswatini National Archives and Record Service Acquisition Policy Stakeholders Workshop, which was held at the Happy Valley Hotel.
The Ministry of Information, Communications and Technology Principal Secretary Pechia Dube says archives represent the threads that hold together the fabric of communities.
It is challenging to acquire valuable historical records that capture the holistic identity and the way of life of Emaswati. Thus, this acquisition policy will serve as a backbone for making acquisition decisions.
Some of the stakeholders that attended the workshop have this to say.
It is imperative that we do take part and add value in terms of making sure that those information assets that are normally generated in the context of our official operations, they are properly documented.
To do what we call a legal deposit, whereby we take what they have written and what we have published on their behalf to go and document and put it in their bank, so that in future, when that information is needed, even if the material is no longer in schools.
The Eswatini National Archives and Record Service Acquisition Policy will promote national identity, protect personal and public rights of Emaswati, among other things. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Uthemba Shabangwe Zulwini.
Members of the House of Assembly and Senators were capacitated on how Parliament operates as stipulated in the Constitution. The Clerk to Parliament, Benedict Klaba, says some of the topics that are covered include Parliament practice, legislation process, and committee system. Klaba workshop in Ezulwini.
The newly appointed senators and members of Parliament attended a workshop that was focusing on how Parliament operates. The Clerk to Parliament, Benedict Klaba, says certain clauses of the Constitution was explained to both senators and MPs.
Kusho ukuthi nyalo sicale ema-standing orders tindlu timbili njengalo wati ukuthi mawukhuluma ngeParliament kufuneka uyadi inqubo ukuthi iParliament.
We have started with introduction of standing orders in both houses, as we all know that when you talk of Parliament, you need to be clear on how Parliament works. We have a fair number of new MPs, and even for those who are not new to Parliament, we have added new standing orders which everyone is required to be familiar with. Earlier on, both houses were under one room as they were being empowered on wellness programs.
Klaba says MPs and senators will be part of an induction week-long workshop, which is expected to be hosted next week. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, Fortune Dlangamandla, Ezulwini.
As information, communication and technology is one of the important sectors which contribute to the economic development of the country, it is imperative to make it more accessible to the public. This was said by Mvilawempi Dlamini, the Chief Executive Officer of Eswatini Communications Commission, during the launch of a survey report known as a baseline of household and individual ICT access and use in Eswatini. The report was launched at Emafini during a meeting with relevant stakeholders.
Iyakhona kusitala ivethi lakhe ama programs ekubuka ukuthi ikhebe setingala kufuna sivale ngala sende nje ama-policies latawukhona ku-addressa lawo ma-gaps latfolakele nasenda lolucwaningo. Le report-ke nawe igwabula vele iyadichaza yona nje ukuthi kuthi nekuthi kwangaka besilisa labakhona labane-access ku-internet bangaka, laba besifazane kumbe laba nema-TV ekhaya bangaka. Ngicabanga nje ngathi ngiloko kakhulu lokukhona sive bananto lokucina ukuthi la statistics la kule report vele angawo ngilevel esiwashare nemhlaba wonke.
The director of the Central Statistics Office under the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development, Thembinkosi Shabalala, says the report will enable government to craft intervention programs to mitigate some of the gaps unearthed by the survey.
Umsebenzi umcoka kakhulu tibalo lesithuthako sisetshenziswa nguhulumende ukuthi ende tinhlelo takhe tekulungisa lapho kushoda khona. Njengoba uvile siyacala kuyenda le survey lena lokusicala kufanele ukuthi siyende kahle ekucaleni.
One of the survey's indicators reveals that about 85% of the country's population access the internet at home, whilst only 2% access it from another person's home. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Bongwa Dube, Emafini.
The Eswatini TV Chief Executive Officer Mlamuli Dlamini says the television station will continue to expose elements gender-based violence in society as a means to contribute to the safety and peacefulness of all Emaswati. Dlamini said this during a courtesy call to the TV station by 1 Billion Rising Solidarity to launch its 2023 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence campaign, which runs from November 25th to the 10th of December.
The theme for this year's campaign is Rise for Freedom, Create the New Culture. The Eswatini TV CEO Mlamuli Dlamini says gender-based violence should be eradicated in all sectors of society, including at the workplace.
Ngumlayeto lona lekufuna uviwe ngilo lonke liswati lomdvuna nalomsikati ngoba umlayeto lomqoka ikakhulu kuleti khathi lesesiphila kuto kuletindzaba lesesitiva nje ukuthi kwentekalani kuma communities lesiphila kuwo kwentekalani emakhaya yindzaba lemcwa kakhulu yinkulumo iconversation lemcwa kakhulu lekufuna vele sihlale siba nayo njalo njalo.
The coordinator of 1 Billion Rising Solidarity, Xolani Hlatshwago, says people should stop the habit of dehumanizing those whom they assist in any way.
It's how men tend to think they have power and control over women. Sifuna nje kutsata la madoda la kaSwazi TV, Eswatini TV. Kuthi akhutsate nalamanye. Kuthi akunandoda lecabanga ukuthi yona seyinemandla seyicontroller whether ngilelishende noma ngile girlfriend yayo noma ngilomfati wayo noma nje ngikuphi lobudlelwane lenisuka noma umthengela staradini lalabanye labatsengako.
Recent media reports point to the rise of gender-based violence, which led to the loss of life, especially of women and children in the recent past. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Bongwa Dube in Babane.
Eswatini Network Campaign for Education for All and the Eswatini Schools Committee and Parents Association say the future of learners implicated in Form 5 papers leak should not be destroyed by the punishment that will be taken despite the crime are accused of doing.
Eswatini Network Campaign for Education for All, SWANSEFA, and Eswatini Schools Committee and Parents Association, ESCAPA, say the law should be followed when punishing learners implicated in the leak of 7 components of 4 Form 5 subjects that were circulated on social media before they were written.
Therefore, whatever happens, we believe the best interest of the child should be put first. Whatever punishment that will be meted against the learners who are implicated must look at the best interest of them. We shouldn't mete out any punishment that is going to compromise their future.
Human rights ekufundza
because this one is a basic human right, education, abafunze. But the punishment yabo, bangabona abantu abadala ukuthi i-apply nini, not now.
On Tuesday, the Ex-Nations Council of Eswatini Registrar Dr. Mandlenkosi Dlamini mentioned that teachers, learners, as well as administrators of a certain school are implicated in the matter. He said, despite that the matter is being handled by the Royal Eswatini Police Services, the Ex-Nations Council of Eswatini will also punish the culprits. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, kwimpendulo kumbi ezulwini.
And in international news, the World Health Organization has asked China for more data on respiratory illnesses spreading in the north of the country, but Beijing offered no public comment on Thursday. Northern China has reported an increase in influenza-like illness since mid-October when compared to the same period in the previous 3 years, the WHO said.
Hospitals in Beijing overwhelmed with parents and children awaiting checks as China sees clusters of pneumonia spreading in the north of the country, affecting mostly children. The surge in cases coincides with the general increase in respiratory illnesses, although the World Health Organization says it's unclear if the two are related.
On the 21st of November, media and ProMed reported clusters of undiagnosed pneumonia in children in northern China. It's unclear if these are associated with the overall increase in respiratory infections previously reported by Chinese authorities or separate events.
The spike in cases comes as China braces for its first full winter since lifting its strict COVID restrictions in December. Authorities have attributed the outbreaks to changing seasons and the circulation of known pathogens that typically affect younger children. Experts weighing in have said there's no reason to suspect the emergence of a novel virus, saying the population's immunity to common bugs has likely been reduced. The WHO, in the meantime, has asked China for additional clinical data and results from the reported outbreaks, saying it remained in close contact with scientists in the country.
Israel's National Security Advisor said late Wednesday that ceasefire talks with the Hamas militant group were still ongoing and the hostage release will not take place before Friday. The ceasefire agreement between the Hamas militant group and Israel had earlier been confirmed.
In Tel Aviv, the family members of the hostages held in Gaza continue to put pressure on the Israeli government to bring their relatives home. Feelings of hope and fear among the families who anxiously wait for updates on the Israel-Hamas agreement, which promises to free Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners.
It's a very important start for us, and we're very hopeful to see them home soon.
You can't say we have a routine right now. Everything is part of some bad dream that is just endless.
The deal reached between Israel and Hamas would see a 4-day ceasefire which was due to start on Thursday, but has now been delayed to Friday.
The hostages will not be released before Friday. Negotiations on the release of our hostages are advancing and continuing constantly.
The agreement follows lengthy negotiations mediated by Qatar, Egypt and the United States and will free 50 women and children of the 240 hostages abducted by the militants on October 7th. According to US officials, 3 Americans could be among them. In exchange, the Israelis are expected to free 150 Palestinian prisoners detained in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Hamas says Israeli aircraft will not fly over southern Gaza during the truce and will be limited over the north of the enclave. But Benjamin Netanyahu warns that this is by no means the end of Israeli operations in Gaza.
I want to be clear. The war continues. We will persist until we achieve all our goals. To bring back all our captives, to eliminate Hamas.
Whilst the fighting stops, hundreds of trucks will be allowed to bring humanitarian, medical and fuel supplies to Gaza.
Germany on Thursday said raids were underway in 4 regions on the homes of members and supporters of Hamas and another Palestinian organization which are banned in the country.
A quiet street in Berlin, waking up to raids by police officers. They were searching for evidence and assets linked to alleged members and supporters of Hamas as well as the Palestinian advocacy network Samedun. The German Interior Minister said the raids aim to further investigate the two groups.
We're continuing our consistent action against radical Islamists. Islamists and anti-Semites cannot and must not feel safe anywhere here.
It's unclear what exactly was uncovered during the raids, which started at 6 a.m. A total of 15 properties were searched, most of them in Berlin. The raids come following a formal ban on the two organizations issued in early November. Germany had already designated Hamas as a terrorist group. And following Hamas's October 7 operation in southern Israel, the German authorities announced they would also crack down on Samedun. This after the group, which translates to steadfast in Arabic, posted photos on Instagram showing pro-Palestinian activists distributing pastries in the streets of Berlin in celebration of Hamas's Al-Aqsa flood operation. The group has expressed its outrage at the ban, which it said was seeking to criminalize speaking out against the current war, organizing, and expressing support for the Palestinians.
Israel on Thursday released a video it says shows an entrance to militant group Hamas' secret tunnel network under civilians' home, located on a street it says is parallel to the Al-Shifa hospital.
There's not much left of the Al-Shifa hospital, once Gaza's biggest medical facility. It's become a vocal point in the war not because of the treatment it offers patients, but because of claims from Israel that Hamas is using the complex as a command and control center. The IDF took 24 journalists to see what it calls evidence of the armed group's tunnel network that lies 10 meters under Al-Shifa. All the footage taken by journalists was subject to approval from the army.
This is the kitchen that they have, and if you go a little bit from this direction, you will see the room that they stay inside with beds. With beds. And also the air condition. And as I told you, this helps us to find, because we understood that below the engine we'll probably find the air condition.
Along with the tunnels, the army also claims it discovered a stockpile of weapons, ammunition, and explosives belonging to Hamas. It says the militant group is using the facility as a human shield.
Hamas using hospitals as terror infrastructures. Hospitals that has the world's immunity, the WHO organization, the UN. It has world's immunity.
Hamas has denied the accusations. Doctors at the Al-Shifa hospital have also rebutted the allegations, arguing that thousands of patients, medical personnel, and civilians were sheltering there. They were forced to leave after Israeli soldiers raided the facility last week. Hamas says the army's targeting of civilian centers like Al-Shifa makes Israel guilty of committing war crimes.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said on Wednesday he urged Vladimir Putin to end Moscow's war on Ukraine and withdraw all troops from the country. In the first G20 video call the Russian president participated in since the conflict.
It was the first G20 summit Vladimir Putin has joined, albeit remotely, since the 2022 Ukraine conflict. In a virtual meeting with world leaders on Wednesday, the Russian president softened his usual hostile tone, referring to the conflict as a tragedy, and even at one point using the word war to describe Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, instead of his preferred term of special military operation.
Some colleagues have already said in their speeches that they are shocked by the ongoing aggression of Russia in Ukraine. We must think about how to stop this tragedy. By the way, Russia has never refused peace negotiations with Ukraine. It's not Russia, but Ukraine that has publicly announced that it's withdrawing from the negotiation process.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly said he will only come to the negotiation table if Russia withdraws from Ukrainian territory. Speaking after the G20 meeting, the German Chancellor said Putin knew how to end the war.
The important thing for me is that it was a good opportunity for us to make clear that peace in Ukraine is endangered because Russia attacked Ukraine, and that it can easily be restored if Russia withdraws its troops.
But Putin's shift in tone suggests he senses an opportunity to coax Ukraine's Western allies, with their attention diverted to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the increasing division over aid for Ukraine in the US Congress as the war grinds on. Kyiv launched a counter-offensive to retake occupied territory this summer, but has not achieved a major breakthrough. Russia still controls nearly a fifth of the country, including the Donbas region and Crimea, which it took in 2014. The two countries are locked in a war of attrition with heavy losses on both sides. And with the advance of winter, troops now face fighting in snow and freezing temperatures.
You have been marked for a great encounter with God. Bishop C.B. Motondo invites you to come and experience a fresh touch of the Lord as you get equipped to move in miracles, signs and wonders.
When God is trying to show you what is about to happen, it's because God loves you.
Receive your prophecy.
I see a name written. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's like Mavuso.
Yes, Mavuso.
Receive your healing.
I am not coming alone. I am bringing my prophetic healing bed.
Receive your deliverance at the Eswatini Higher Life Conference on Friday the 1st of December and Sunday the 3rd of December at Hall number 1 Mavuso Trade Center in Manzini.
Whatever it is that is disturbing you, this is the time that you come.
The time is now.
In our sports news, Sibonanga Dlamini, who is the War Regional Football Association spokesperson, says the finals of the War Regional Ingwenyama Cup games will be played this Sunday at Killarney Stadium in Pikes Peak from 2 p.m. between Kappa Kappa and Young Lovers.
We are happy as an office that as we speak, out of the 24 teams that we had, as you know, that the composition of our Super League is made of 12 teams from the south end and 12 teams from the north end. We are proud to say that we are now left with two teams. That is Kappa Kappa from the northern side and Young Lovers from the southern part. So this coming Sunday, the 26th of November at Killarney Sports Ground in Pikes Peak, that is where we host our finals for the Regional Ingwenyama Cup. Entrance fee to our fans is going to be 20 Emalangen, and gates will open at 12 noon. Logistics in relation to this tournament, we appeal and actually request to soccer lovers, in particular in the region, to please be at their best behavior, especially because we need to create a very important, a very good image for the association.
National rugby team Kusile are unchanged in world rankings, where they remained 104 out of 112 nations in the world. The latest ranking sees Springbok regain top position after winning the 2023 Rugby World Cup in France.
Following the completion of the 2023 Rugby World Cup held in France last month, World Rugby Board latest ranking revealed that Kusile remain unchanged in world rankings, where they are positioned 104 out of 112 nations in the world. Kusile were previously 102nd when last rankings were released in August this year. Eswatini Rugby Union commented, mentioning that they are looking to take part of different international games in order to boost their rankings next year. Other rankings saw world champions Springboks retaining their first position worldwide. Neighboring countries like Zimbabwe are ranked 31st, while Zambia have moved up a position where they are now ranked 68th in the world. Ireland are now second, followed by New Zealand, who are third in the world, while World Cup host France are ranked fourth. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Mbabane.
We've come to the end of our English bulletin. Thank you for staying with us. Let's leave you with the weather.
It's 35 minutes after 7. Asiphinze sikwamukele ehlelweni Ngonelo Muhle kulesikhathi sanyalo sitawo ukukhulumisa tetemidlalo nensathelo yemsakato yetemidlalo Fabrice Msonera. Welcome back, Fabrice. Wasibalekela nje isikhathi leside. It's good to have you back on the program.
It's a very good morning, Sfiso, and for the viewers, of course, once again. Yeah.
I'm not too sure if it's a good morning for a lot of us. Lapha kaNgwane, a lot of Sihlangu fans are still distraught and disjointed in the opening 2 matches of the 2026 World Cup qualifiers against Libya and Cape Verde. 2 losses, Fabrice, and another thing that you guys highlighted in Sasnika Temibigo, we haven't gotten a goal this year, which is very sad. But even before we get there, just focusing on the 2026 World Cup qualifiers, what would you say, based on your analysis of the 2 games? I remember our first game, we looked really good. We looked really, really good, but we lost that game.
We lost that game, Sfiso, and I think for me, yeah, we can talk about the games and everything and what's happening in the field of play. But for me, if I was to tell you the truth, Sfiso, I don't blame Coach Dominic, I don't blame the squad and everything. There's a lot that is ongoing. And give me at some point, say, then you ask yourself, if we're treating the national team like this, then it says a lot about our football. So we can't play at home because we don't have a venue that is at a FIFA standard or CAF standard. So the only way to play is to use next those stadiums, Mbombela. But how do you then explain that the team that you are hosting, Libya, all the way up there from North Africa, gets to be in Mbombela prior than you, and you are hosting them, and you are here just next to Mbombela? They got there before us. And information we gathered is that even the hotel that we're supposed to be booked in, they then got there on time and booked the hotel. And then on Wednesday morning, the game is on Friday. On Wednesday morning, just say
Who do we blame for that?
It's the Football Association.
Okay.
Because they're in charge of how things are run. And it's time now we don't shy away from the truth. This is what's happening. Cape Verde, I wasn't really complaining because even the first game in the qualifiers, we lost against them. There's even a time we played a draw. Libya, I thought we had a game. In the first half, I thought we looked really good. Yeah, we looked really good. And if you look at the remaining games that we have, I mean, look at Botswana now. Look at South African, that friendly play against South Africa. Look at Mozambique, all these games. And you talk about Kosafa. Yes, there is a game against Kosafa that we managed to play against Namibia. But you look at the results. 2023, actually, if you're to rate Sihlangu in 2023, you just put them somewhere else, minus something.
Yeah.
Totally a disaster. So it says a lot. And Cameroon are yet to come here. And this is an A squad when you talk about African countries. You know, Angola, it's another team that is always a tough opponent whenever we play them. Mauritius have improved. Yeah, Mauritius, they have improved since their football is on another level. Mauritius, Comoros, they have improved. I think you saw reports saying that Comoros managed to defeat Ghana. Mauritius and Comoros have improved. This is where we are. So if we couldn't get points against Libya and Cape Verde, and then there are rumors that maybe by the time we play the next home game in June next year, probably maybe, let's hope, Sompilo National Stadium will be up to standard. We host Angola, then we have Cameroon. These are African powerhouse. But look at where we are. So far, just by that position, so far, we've lost our chances. 30%.
It's really sad indeed, Fabrice. But I also saw you went out to the public and you spoke to some of the fans. And of course, they had different opinions on where the problem is and how we can develop our football in the country. And perhaps that could have a good ripple effect to our national pride. Sihlangu Semnikati, you said you don't blame the coach.
There's a lot that is happening behind.
Fans are saying they blame the coach. I want us just to focus on the coach for a second there. Yeah. Would you say any other coach would have gotten the same result?
Even Guardiola. Under the circumstances they're playing under. I'll give you an example. Yes, now let's talk about the coach. He also has got his own problems. The starting lineup, people are complaining about the starting lineup. People are complaining about...
Are you complaining about the starting lineup?
To some extent, yes. To some extent, I would say
so
yes.
So we do have a coach problem?
Yeah, we do have a coach problem. But
then maybe if we do change the coach, we might see...
But prior to that, we have got prior problems with the coach.
I acknowledge that. Yes. I acknowledge that. But let's also... They are all problems. So if you can fix all of them one by one, changing a coach shouldn't be difficult.
For me, you see, if I was the Football Association and I was the new coach, the remaining games, I would take the under 20 or under 23. under 23, just make them play the remaining games. Just let go everyone. Because even the players, some of them, he plays them out of position. We're very defensive in our approach. And then when it's time, when we respond, we can't even be a threat to some extent. It's a disaster because the fans will talk. Rumors also, I'm not confirming any reports, so just to avoid any ethical dilemma, is that currently there's nothing concrete in terms of coach with the Football Association in terms of the contract. Apparently the contract was finished and it was not renewed, and he was told just bamba for the time being, allegedly, so far the information. So there's information trending on social media now, would see it's not a coach but it's a coach. And in other words, just to and you can't even blame himself as a Dominic Kunene because a lot is going on behind those. And then before they left the country, Football Association president promised them an incentive. Now, what's the story?
Bonus for each player, yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Bafana. I'm not saying let's compare ourselves with Bafana. Just a call-up in the national team. Just your name being mentioned in the national team. Call-up, not in the starting lineup. Call-up. That's 50K for you that you've been called. Bafana.
That's an incentive.
That's an
before
incentive.
They even go there.
Before they say you are in the starting lineup, 23 men called by Coach Bruce. It's 50K just for you to get a call-up.
Right.
For us, we don't even have a standard to say for you to get a sit-down call-up, it's 10K. Then how do you motivate the players? That's one. I'm not saying let's give them 50K, but how do you motivate them to say, give me 10K? We had instances where we used to have international players, and they would say, off record, rather for me to leave wherever I was playing, Bombela or Cape Town or wherever, to come and play for the national team. I'm all the way driving here. When I get here, just give me 900 or 1.5. We're playing for the national team. Yes, there should be that mentality for the badge, pride, but motivate me, make me feel that I'm playing for the national team. So there are all those issues. Then we get to the issues of the coach. We talk about performance, political issues. Let's put them aside. The issue of facility. We don't have a stadium. And that's another aspect that a South African coach was talking about, to say countries without home stadiums, they should just be banned from this competition, which I understand. But if we can fix the remaining issues that we have, which is aircon, the big screen, and then, in terms of also security personnel and how the situation should look like in the royal box currently, then you can be allowed to use some floor. But the worry is...
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. But the worry is, this is what CAF wants now.
Right.
So by the time you fix it, you might find that CAF now has added other...
New requirements,
because
new developments.
The tricky part is, if you have a screen at a stadium, what you are telling me is that you must broadcast the games, because the screen should display what's happening in the field of play. So do you understand? The screen must display what's happening in the field of play. That's what CAF is telling you. In other words, your games should show. So it's a lot of things that we have to look at. And for me, we can't say we're in a tough group. Yes, we're in a tough group, but come on, how come the likes of Comoros, they are less ranked than us, but they were able to defeat Ghana. Rwanda defeated South Africa. I mean, we're in the same group with these countries.
Again, I think it's the association, the organization.
They are doing it. Recently, there was a report that Eswatini is amongst the top 20 best ranked leagues in the world, in Africa. 11th in Africa. How are you ranked 11th? Because what we see in the league should be able to be displayed in the national team. How are we ranked 11th, but we can't display proper football at the national team?
Suppose we do have the talent, it's just a matter of organization from the...
A lot is happening. So I think, we're very inzaba, would say, maybe siyayidzinga sports,
yes, that's been a conversation for a while.
But it's time. We need intervention, because when you listen to the public, not only us, that's what in TV we spoke to the public, but you could also see from the newspapers, the public is responding. The public is saying that something should be done. Let's talk about development programs. What happened to our under-20? We hosted under-20 COSAFA games in last year. Is it last year? Yes. But if we were to ask what happened to that group of players, are we even following the stages to say we saw them last year, can they go play qualifiers? Can we even take 3 or 4 of those young players and just usher them into the national team. No. We hear from the under-20 head coach once again calling a press conference. We're playing a qualifier against Nigeria.
It's quite sad, Fabrice. The organization, and for me, what's even sadder is the fact that it goes down even to team level. Before we even get to national team, just club level. I was reading a headline this morning that Mbabane Swallows is stranded as Bishop Lukele is repossessing his bus. You see that the problems, they are just they have metastasized even into club level, and one ought to be concerned, and maybe, I don't know how we can fix all these things. Maybe we do need the sports
to leave this point, just so sorry to cut you, we've got the smallest problems that FIFA cannot think, we're still living under that roof. We still write starting lineup with a pen. Wow. Like Use Stadium, team gives you a lineup with a pen. Type number 11, Fabrice Msone number 10. We still write. We still go in the field of play without checking if when the just number it reflects. Incident, two players have got the same number of jerseys, number 6 and number 6, and you go in the first lineup. We still have problems where instead of being 11, we be 12. Those are smallest things. Before we talk even about performance, then you look at how all those issues are going to affect the national team. I mean, it's a disaster. Before we talk about facilities, we don't have facilities and everything. Let's look at ourselves. Can we do a self-introspection to say, this is where we're heading? It's a disaster.
It is a disaster indeed. Bongosi, so just khulumisana nensatheli msakato yetemidlalo Fabrice Msonera. He's frustrated, and I understand ukuthi ufrustrated yini. Sihlang semnikati sidliwe the opening 2 matches of 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Libya and Cape Verde, 1-0 and 2-0 respectively. Fabrice, let's come back home. After all this dismay, let's at least we can still come back and watch, even though some of
them though, not all of them, some of them.
We will be seeing Eswatini United versus Moneni Pirates, and there's a couple of other games that are upcoming for the weekend. I just want to start with the attraction for the weekend. According to you, Moipi Fabrice, let's analyze the attraction first.
I think just to highlight first, I think last night M10 Premier League, Premier League of Eswatini released a statement saying that under the current weather conditions, where it's really hot, even tomorrow it's going to be hot, so there has been an adjustment in terms of the fixture. So most of the games they were supposed to start at 2 to 4 and 2 to 3. They've been moved to from 4, and others are starting at 6 p.m. So in as much as we might see it's written there 14 hours, but just to adjust in terms of weather condition. But yeah, some of the big games you can expect on the day. I mean, you look at the game against Young Buffaloes and Babane Highlanders. It's a game that is always attracting.
Babane Swallows,
Babane Swallows also, attracting some of the supporters. So the return of the league, it's a sign that now the supporters can just and then we've got a Manzini derby, we've got Denver Sundowns and Manzini Wanderers. Issues at Manzini Wanderers also, team is not playing, players haven't been paid for more than 3. I mean, listen to those things. This is one of the biggest team in the land, Manzini Wanderers. When we talk about crowd pullers clubs, Manzini Wanderers is one of the clubs. But more than 3 months festive season, Black Friday namur. Black Friday. It's a pain. Before Rangers. Funny enough, the likes of Rangers, Ilovo, and you can't hear these complaints. I think those people are in charge. They're making sure that the players are well taken care of. These issues are affecting big teams like Manzini Wanderers, big teams like Moneni Pirates. So it's a disaster. So one of the best fixtures that I was highlighting, Young Buffaloes and Babane Swallows.
That's the attraction.
Yeah, but
number 3 and number 4.
Young Buffaloes, Babane Swallows. Then Green Mamba, Babane Highlanders. It's another game as well.
It's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, Green Mamba is still at the top of the log standings with 16 points, but it's going to be interesting for Babane Swallows, like you said, Fabrice, against Young Buffaloes. They are at 3rd position and 4th position, respectively. 15 points for Swallows, 13 points for Young Buffaloes. They both need to win this game. in order for them to at least enter, crack the top 3. It's really possible. In fact, crack the top 2.
Yeah. And look at Green Mamba, actually, they have a game in hand because the games that have been played so far, it's 8 games. So if Green Mamba is to play and win their game in hand, there will be 19 points. So, but I'm very confident. Look at what Matlenya has done, and I think it's early in the season to start talking about them. But it's something similar to what's happening in Spain. There's a team. I don't know if it's Malaga or Girona.
It's Girona.
It's Girona, yes.
Currently
Girona,
at the first position. We'll get there. Fabrice, you highlighted Wanderers and Moneni Pirates as big teams. Quite sad looking at them, 13th and 14th position, right at the tail end. But impeccable form for Green Mamba. It's just green everywhere. They're really doing great.
It's very good. And like I said prior to the beginning of the season, I say I don't see anyone, touching them this season in terms of taking the trophy. I see them defending that league. They have got what it takes. Talking about Sitlang players, they've got some of the very known faces in the national team, experience. We saw what they did last season. They played now in CAF. So I'm not even thinking. I'm confident Ernest Mavuso and his players will defend this title. They will go home.
It's looking like that, Fabrice, certainly. But let's go to the DStv
13 and 14.
Premiership.
Big teams.
I don't want to talk about Moneni Pirates and Wanderers, Fabrice. Let's go to South Africa, our neighboring country. Of course, we will enjoy our local league. Young Buffaloes will be playing a good game with Bobana Solos. But the DStv Premiership also has some games that people may really want to see this weekend.
Stellenbosch Amazulu, it's another tricky one. Amazulu could really get 3 points on the day. I'm confident once again. Richards Bay against Orlando Pirates. Pirates has to go to Durban and face Richards Bay. Richards Bay, we have our own and local, Justice Figueroa, who was injured for the past couple of 3 or 4 weeks with that being in the squad. He couldn't even face the likes of Libya and Cape Verde for Sihlangu due to injury, but he is back, he's training with the team. So let's hope he could feature in that game against Orlando Pirates. Then look at the games on Sunday, the likes of Chiefs and also Sundowns being the field of play. Sundowns,
10th position Kaizer Chiefs, by the way.
I don't see them also
need to highlight that.
Missing again this trophy. They have got what it takes to go and take it. Pretty much easy for Mamelodi Sundowns after winning that African, continental competition.
But SuperSport United is right behind them, just 1 point behind. So they shouldn't be relaxed. They are not a Green Mamba.
But let's see, in my opinion and in my confidence, Sundowns will take the trophy once again. SuperSport, they're doing well, but Sundowns have got what it takes. So, Chiefs, Pirates, they still have to work hard. Pirates now number 7. It's early in the season. It's only 10 to 12 games. So we could see a change towards February, March next year.
Mamelodi Sundowns has only played 8 games. SuperSport has played 12. Does that
so
mean,
if they play their remaining games in hand, then they will extend the lead. At least 12 points in 4 games. If they win the 4 games, that's 12 points. So they will extend the lead. So a lot yet to happen.
And Nabadlale they'll win 3 out of that 4.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Orlando Pirates, 7th position, going into this weekend against Richards Bay. I mean, Richards Bay hasn't been the best team this season, but at the same time, Orlando Pirates hasn't been the best team this season.
Yeah, I think if you talk about knockout tournaments, the Pirates will tell you that so far we can't judge ourselves because currently in terms of knockout tournaments we're doing well. But league-wise, they need to improve their performance. Richards Bay, if you look at where they are from last season, now entering the DStv Premiership, I think for them it's all about maintaining position. Let's not get relegated. Let's maintain the season and make sure that we finish still in the top 8 for next season and play in the M10-8. So far, we give them that credit. They're doing well. For Pirates number 7, they need to improve their position and look at the likes of Chiefs. I mean, look where they are, changing managers every now and then. In the last
they are pulling a Wanderers
6 to 7 months, twice changed. So,
Fabrice, we don't have enough time. I want us to move into the English Premier League. Man City versus Liverpool this weekend, 2:30 p.m. It should be the biggest game of the weekend, I believe.
It should be. I think Pep was talking about how this game will renew their rivalry. And if you look at where they're standing in terms of the league, they're just right behind them. City and Liverpool just 26 points, so almost equal with Arsenal, but they're ahead in terms of goals, 28-27. So Liverpool is ahead of Arsenal in terms of goal difference. But this game will change everything, because I will tell you, going to this game, Liverpool doesn't have any sort of injury that should be a concern. So they have got all their key players. Information gathered is that Manchester City, some of their key players also got injured during the International FIFA week, including Haaland. So we could see how things maybe change in the fixture. Early as 12:30 tomorrow, So it should be the kickoff between the two sides that I think so far, besides Arsenal, the two sides that have the chance once again to lift the English Premiership.
Premier League,
this season. So it's going to be very intriguing.
Best league in the world for
Best league in the
You look
world.
at those lock standings.
Liverpool could win this game though.
I'm with Liverpool.
They
I'm
will
rooting
win
for
this
Liverpool.
game.
My family, we are all Liverpool fans, Akaya. And we're definitely beating Manchester City this weekend. But here's the trick for Brice. English Premier League is, without a doubt, the best league in the world. I mean, you look at the first 4 teams, the top 4 teams.
Look at Aston Villa number 5 and number 1. The difference is just a game. If City was to lose against Liverpool and Aston Villa wins against, they're playing West Ham, then you get to see Aston Villa getting 28 points. So in a short of, just 90 minutes, a lot could change. And then you've got also Arsenal against Brentford tomorrow in the evening, 5:30, but local time, 6:30. The return of goalkeeper Ramsdale also could be, he is actually going to play the game since Raya can't play that game per agreement. Raya is from Brentford, so he can't play, he can't face his old team. Those
Another
are part of
game
the
that is,
agreements,
I think, we don't want to overlook is Chelsea versus Newcastle.
Chelsea picking up their form. Newcastle, they want to maintain and show us what they showed us last season, so it's another tricky game. So I think for me, anyone between number 1 and number 7, they can't just, you can't write them off. I mean, look at Manchester United. They're 7
You're going
points.
as far as number 7. I think you're
I'm not trying to talk about teams that can win the league. I'm talking about teams that can change the log at any time.
Oh, the log. Okay.
If Newcastle...
But really, it's number 1 to number 5.
Yeah, number 1 to number 5. Yeah. But number 1 to number 7, anything can happen in terms of fixture-wise.
True.
Newcastle can play in Tottenham and beat them. Manchester United can play Aston Villa and beat them.
Fair.
So anything can happen, And then look at Everton after, losing that 10 points, the deduction of 10 points. They have now dropped in the red zone. They have got 4 points. Imagine moving from number 14, where there were 14 points, to now number 19 after dropping that 10 points deduction due to FIFA fairness, financial fairness. And I think Manchester City is also heading there. If anything is to go by, we could see them, losing a lot of trophies from. We date it back as early as 2013. So anything could change. Yeah. So even Arsenal supporters were talking about, getting the trophy they were supposed to get last season. So anything can change. So what a weekend so far in the English Premiership.
But Brice, we've run out of time, but briefly, maybe in 30 seconds, Girona, Real Madrid and Barcelona. Girona at the top of the log standings with 34 points. Madrid and Barcelona behind 32 and 30 points respectively. Are we seeing Girona here pulling a surprise on us?
Not really. They could probably could end in the top 5, But I see
why do you say that? I think they've proven that they are really...
Some of these teams, sometimes they lack consistency. We've seen this in the past. I mean, look at only games that have been played. 13 games. And remember the league...
13 games is a lot of games.
The league we played 38 games. So
13 games is a lot of games.
So we are 25 games away from completing the season. Girona, yes, maybe I'll give them that confidence, finishing top 5. But Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, they'll just take their regular
They've won
position.
11 out of 13.
Yeah, but they
drew the other one.
There's 25
they
games.
They only lost one.
If this was happening in England, then I'll be worried. But this is happening in Spain, so I'm not really worried. So
Real Madrid and Barcelona have also played 13 games, just like them.
But you look at the consistency in terms of the remaining games. Let's see how they play in the remaining...
I'll make a bet with you right now as I say goodbye.
5 games.
25 games from now, they'll still be in the top 3.
Okay, for me, they'll be in the top 6.
Okay, we'll bet. We won't tell the viewers how much we'll bet, but we'll bet off air. Kwelo muhle sasifike maphethelwe nelhlelo ube nemphela sonto lenhle asambe siyobona Black Friday. Thathe inqumo leti bonakalako. Nisale kahle.